Hello, and welcome to Depth Perception. We discuss movies and dive into how films direct the way we experience them. We create a perception of sound, a perception of sight, with a dimension of mind. We move into a land of both shadow and substance, of themes and ideas. I've got James Looks Twice over here.
Hey!
And we've got Cooch K.
Oh my God. It's the third time this weekend I've been called Cooch. Awesome.
Brought to you by the movie Thunderheart, 1992. An FBI agent, Ray Lavoie, played by Val Kilmer, R.I.P., investigates a murder on a Native American reservation in South Dakota. So today's agenda, we'll go with, of course, initial reactions or history of watching this movie, because this is a movie that we are all pretty familiar with. I didn't tell you guys this beforehand, but we'll also talk a little bit about theme, and I got a good reason for that. We'll talk about whether this was you consider this a modern or a stereotypical portrayal. And keep in mind, this was 1992. Is this fair to Indigenous peoples? Are we proud to watch this movie? Character and community conflicts in relation to today's communities. And then I have, are these conflicts accessible to a non-native audience? What's your guys' history with this movie? When did you first watch it? Can you remember favorites, anything like that?
I've seen it a bunch when I was younger, probably elementary school. I know my dad watched it a few times, and I got to see it. I remember Graham Greene being the same character from, like, hey, he's in Dances with Wolves. And I probably haven't seen it in at least 12 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's been a while, and then I came here, and I watched it here the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little better than I remember it, because I remember getting kind of lost in the investigation the last time I watched it, like not sure how the plot was moving, just because I either wasn't paying as close attention, or there were things that were vague or red herrings, or wasn't sure whose side was on what the last time I watched it. Mm-hmm. But I still remember liking the dialogue.
Yeah, this one's interesting, especially for you, because you have both the lens of the Native American perspective on things, but then you also have the lens of law enforcement and how you would actually go about solving this thing. And so, yeah, pretty cool take we'll get from you, hopefully, this episode.
Yeah. Try to throw some input in there.
Hopefully.
Cooch K-Max.
Well, listen, you came to the right place. No, I saw it in 92. 20-year-old me. I'm very old. 20-year-old me in Alabama at the time, looking forward to watching it. It's really interesting to me that I couldn't wait to watch it, hearing what it was about, seeing some of the trailers. I remember being at a movie probably in early 92 and seeing the previews for this and thinking, oh, cool. Interesting to me was it was probably my first time being away from the reservation in Alabama. You could not be farther from the reservation. And watching the preview made me feel closer to home. Seeing some of the dances and hearing some of the singing and seeing just some of that. But again, when I say home, it's like I'm not a Plains native, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it just felt more like identity. Even seeing some of the quips that Graham Greene said in the, you know what I mean, like in the trailer, feeling like, oh, I can't wait to see this. I remember being just so geared up to see it. And it didn't let down. I remember seeing it in 92 and just being like, God, this is cool. So I'm going to get into more of that, of how I felt as we get to some of the questions that you posed a little bit later.
All right.
But I just remember feeling like, this is cool. And like James, I haven't watched this in easily over a decade, maybe closer to 15 years. And then just saw it again last night. And I think I was telling Vaz that in pre-production that I'm like, I liked it more. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It's my experience with it.
So I believe I saw this maybe late 90s, just due to age and appropriateness for watching it. But I remember really liking it back then. And the characters, not just, oh, I'm Native and this is a Native movie and I can watch it. It was more just, hey, this is a cool movie. Mm-hmm. And interesting, unique conflict throughout it, And since then, I've probably gone a stretch between 2010 and 2020 where I probably only seen it once or twice, but since then I've probably watched it on an annual basis. To me, it's at this point one of those movies where I could just put on, in the background and be quoting it as I'm cleaning or watching kids or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I would say decent knowledge of the film, but maybe not so much the whatever you call it, inspirations for the things that happen in it.
Yeah. I remember, before we move on, I remember the context of watching it. I wasn't far removed from a lot of in my lifetime, the highest conflict between different groups of natives and the idea of goons on Tuscarora.
Yeah.
From when I was in high school, so much conflict that was happening internally right on Tuscarora, and then thinking, oh, there's a goon squad, there's different interests, there's a traditional government, and then we'll get on further into it. But I just remember timestamp, like when I saw it was just a couple of years after walking a picket line with an actual goon squad and troopers and federal marshals and feeling a real close kinship to some of those emotions that these characters are inside.
Mm-hmm. All right. So to kind of shape our discussion, I had mentioned that I did not include, even though we do it with all of our other movies, I didn't tell you guys to think of a theme. And it's because I kind of want to see the difference in lens in a split second decision here. As I've got three different arenas of where the what you could say the central theme of the movie is. So I'm going to list them out and see what you guys agree with.
This could be fun. This could be fun.
So first theme I have is exploitation of native lands. I have corruption and injustice within native communities. And I have cultural identity as another central theme. So give it a couple seconds, and then whoever wants to speak first, decide on what you really align yourself with most out of all these.
What we think this movie holds more to the value of.
What the central theme of the movie.
Would you mind repeating those one more time?
Sure.
Yeah.
We've got exploitation of Native American lands, corruption and injustice in Native communities, or cultural identity.
Okay. I'll go with the second one.
Injustice on native lands, reservations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I think that's the more core theme.
Yeah, and
not to say that the other three don't hold.
That's why I said
to
more.
That value.
Yeah.
So I'll say that second one based on the exploitation of lands being a backdrop that gives rise to the second one, and the third one kind of holding more close to Val Kilmer's character throughout the story. So his more conflict is within himself and his heritage or cultural identity, and the reason that everything needs to kind of be covered up is because of the lands that they're trying to exploit and the money that what's his name might get from the Milton and the goons might get from kind of hiding it from everyone else and being able to exploit the lands for the uranium drilling. But I think the majority, those two things exist in this world, but the majority of the conflict is in an area where, in an arena where all these things can happen, where you can cover up murders, where you can hire people that are prisoned on parole and make them do the dirty jobs that you can kind of distance yourself from, that you can be in a world where we're going to put a de facto authority with high-grade weapons that the U.S. government will fund because there's money to be had and cover-ups to be done on areas where maybe nobody's going to care if people die or if people are exploited, killed, or covered up. So I'll say all three of these exist, but I'm going to say that the last one, the middle one, holds more weight for the story to hinge on.
Okay. Now remember, there's no wrong answer. Each of these could be correct.
Each of them are true.
Yeah.
K-Max.
Well, I like the way that Tin Man put it. That all three of them are valid. They're worth discussing. I find that the filmmaker's got me right where he wants me. It's a journey of Val Kilmer's character, his identity, and so I'm going to go with that only because. Just because I think the film it has that appeal for me. You have this. It starts off with him listening to "Badlands" by Springsteen, driving through New York, driving through D.C. in his convertible, with his Ray-Bans on and his European Western good looks. That's what you see him first. You see Val Kilmer, pre-Tombstone by a year, by the way. So we didn't have Doc Holliday yet. Yep. So we knew he was going to be a badass, but not that much of a badass, right? Gosh, he was great, wasn't he? Yeah. So you see right from the onset that this is going to be this is the clay on the wheel. We're going to watch him get formed. We're going to see him get shaped from the time he talks with the real senator, Fred, that character, when he's breaking it down, pretty much setting the whole exposition of the film up, saying, here's what you are and here's where you're going, and you're going to be our native. You're going to be our token native out there, and they're going to accept you because of that. And you know what I mean? Like saying, and just setting it up perfectly. It's like...
Well, I think that was, I don't know if you want to call it foreshadowing, but for him to have such this first impression of him, driving convertible and the Ray-Bans on, and then to get into the office and the guy's like, no, here's who you are. Mm-hmm. Kind of, hints at how this is, it's other people being able to remind him, no, here's your actual history. Here's your
And
identity.
If you remember, one of the things I said, I think in the last episode, that infuriates me is when everybody outside tells us who we are. Mm-hmm. And that's when I saw that happening, I'm like, oh, this is going to be an identity piece, and the filmmaker's going to manipulate our aims at who's going to define him. And it's not till, spoiler alert, you've had 30 years, folks, till the end that he actually grasps his own identity of this is who I am. Yeah. It's this, and it's this, and this is who I am. And I think that's one of the draws to Thunderheart for me, is that I long for that kind of power, what is the word I'm looking for? Not your sovereignty, but your autonomy to define yourself as you see fit, and not this outside force, or even the ultra native, that's the ultra traditional, or the ultra business. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. It's somewhere in between. And so, to me, it made me feel very much an identity role myself. So the filmmaker had me right where they wanted me. I look at Val Kilmer; he's my vehicle. There's all these other things that are definitely present in the film, which makes it a great film. There's all kind of layers. But so I picked the identity.
Nice.
So I've known you for a while now, but I know that is one of your spots. There is, don't tell me how I should feel. Don't tell me what to believe. Don't tell me how I should act, or don't tell me when to be offended.
Yeah.
And so I kind of hope that you'd have that reaction from the start, where the guy is telling him, no, here's what you are.
Yeah.
But I think throughout the movie, they're not. I wouldn't say they're not telling him anything he doesn't already know. It seems like there's constant reminders, like, hey, here's your people. Here's what happened at Wounded Knee. Mm-hmm. They're all things that are easily accessible by Val Kilmer's character. That he could use. He chooses not to do it basically his whole life until he gets to this reservation. Then it's learning a little bit about his his ancestors, his history, and everything, and being able to incorporate it into who he is now. So I think that was actually a pretty important view. Is it's in these cases, it's not them telling him who he is; it's just reminding him, here's the objective information.
And he
for
actually
you.
gets so angry with it. There's a little bit of me and him, and again, we all hope that about the leading men, right? Who doesn't want to be Val Kilmer? From not just looks, ladies, but I'm like, there's a little bit of me and him, and that he gets so mad about, almost like Peter denying Christ, like, don't tell me who I am. You know what I mean? I am not one of them. I remember him saying that one time, like,
oh, these are your people. Those aren't my people.
Yeah.
But he also has like a checkered history with his father, who he has buried and does not want to have any connection with that. So every time people have asked him about his dad, oh, I don't know, I was a baby. Oh, I don't know, I was, what's it called?
And the one guy says, you were 7.
You were 7.
Yeah.
And then Maggie eventually says, like, oh, you didn't know him. She's like, I knew him. Here's what I knew about him. And it was all negative stuff about him. Not all negative, but it was just, he had such a rough history with his dad that he wanted to bury that portion of him. And then they force him to dig it up. And it's like, no, you're going to use that to help solve this murder. So it was like a nice conflict they set in place for him, a journey to put him on. So I thought it was really so cool.
Film was that they have so much basis for like trauma research, and informed trauma research tells you how much this stuff stays with you and shapes you. And we're not even aware of it, especially as men. We're not aware of it. We're becoming more aware of it, how trauma shapes you. But those are questions we don't usually dance with.
Yeah.
And this guy, Mr. Master of the Segway again.
Oh, boy.
This time he jumped straight to middle of the episode, though.
Oh, dear.
But
it's all purposeful.
I wanted to highlight also the use of the pipe in the movie, because I feel like that's kind of the symbol for how far along he is in accepting this as part of his history and his personality, or his identity. Could be when he first sees the pipe, Grandpa reaches, and Graham Greene's character, what was his name?
Walter Crowhorse.
Crowhorse? Well, yeah. So he takes the pipe and, he inspects it like a piece of evidence and gives it back. Yeah. And then it's kind of like you can participate if you want. Here's the information, take it or leave it. Yeah. And then when you see him again with the pipe, it's Looks Twice is in there with him. And Looks Twice is a little bit more like, no, this is your history. Like, he basically shoves the pipe to him. Yeah. And he's got it in his hands contemplating before the FBI comes and breaks it all up. Yeah. And then finally at the end, it's the token that Grandpa leaves him with.
The trade gift, yeah.
And it's kind of like, this is with you now. Like, this is part of you. So I thought that was a pretty cool use of that symbol. And, I mean, because I feel like for these types of movies, we don't get too much of that, because the native aspect of the movie is too obvious for us not to look past and see the other storytelling things,
Oh, yeah. No, I get bogged down at the powwow scene where I'm like, oh, hey, there's Lakota version of Grandpa Mike.
That's
there's
it.
Lakota. I
So-
had that same ribbon shirt. What the heck?
That's right. Super cool. Then you're looking at the drum scene, who you know from the drum.
Yep.
Drum.
Now, I was in the same arena as K-Max, though. I thought this movie was more about cultural identity. And that one, I think out of the 3 themes, is the most broad. When you say cultural identity, it doesn't have to be just native identity, but, across all different cultures, being able to balance modernizing your culture and keeping the values along with it. Where do you draw the line? What do you keep? What becomes outdated? What becomes necessary? It's all a gray area to try and figure out, and it's not easy. So we've been talking about it already, but with Ray Lavoie, what does he take with him? Well, he chose not to take his father's past, which was, a quarter of his genetic makeup. And eventually balances it out by the end. But all of this is echoed by the conflicts on the reservation. you have the goons that are in support of, quote, modernizing, holding barricades up on roads. I don't know if I'd call it modernizing. That's how they say it in the movie. But it's like a radical way of trying to implement change on the reservation for the newer. So pro-government is also how they put it. And then you have the other side, which is the ARM, or it was based on AIM, right?
American Indian Movement, yeah.
So you have that side just trying to preserve like the old ways, and this balance of how do you incorporate both sides? Because you do have characters that do it. You have, and pretty much it's all our main characters, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
So right in the middle, how do you balance that? And I think that's the balance that Ray Lavoie's character is ultimately trying to achieve. Like you have Maggie's character that went to school off the reserve, came back. So she's modernized herself, but she keeps the values that are supported by ARM and all that. Mm-hmm. You have even Graham Greene's character that he is law enforcement. Like just by just by the nature of his job, he is pro-government, right? Like he has a badge and everything. You have Grandpa Reaches that is, again, he's also, to me, he's kind of right in the middle too. He kept the values and the traditions of the, quote, old ways. He's in the sweat lodge and his practices at home, being able to talk with looks twice. But just when you watch him on screen, it's not like he's this radical pro person either. So to me, he's approachable from all different sides, right? It's the characters that are on the far ends that are a little bit more unstable. And so, like I said before,
interesting.
The balance that our main character is looking for is where all the other supportive characters are. Maggie helps him supports him in finding the truth and all that. And same thing with Graham Greene's character. So, this movie, do you see it as a modern or stereotypical portrayal of Indigenous peoples or communities?
I think for 1992, modern with some stereotypical looks. I'll clear it up quickly. Modern in that 92, you had this federal agent, so you had this educated, part native, working in D.C., very successful at what he does, getting assigned a pretty important case, going out to work with this pretty renowned FBI agent, this legendary FBI agent. And then there's looks while you're watching it at some pretty, I think Hollywood, it's on purpose too, right? Because they can't relate to that character as much as a native character. Val Kilmer is this successful DC FBI agent. So for the audience to be more comfortable and cozy, you need this little tour through the reservation when he's like, it's like a third world country right in the middle of the United States. And you're seeing these characters, and that's not a stereotypical look right there. That's reality, sadly, what they're seeing. But then you get little pictures of some of the jokes and some of the things like that are almost a little bit more stereotypical. Sometimes for jokes to work, that's how comedy works. So I feel like the film is a more modern film for 92, mind you, not 2025, maybe not. But some of the issues are very much present now too, that were happening there with these groups and this power struggle that you talked about, the legal loopholes that exist on a reservation. Gosh, I changed my vote. No. Anyway, I guess modern, but with some little looks back at some stereotypical for texture, maybe. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's how I felt about it.
Okay. I agree with that. I like that. I do like that because I was just reading up on there. It's like this movie came like on the heels of Dances with Wolves, where it was where most natives are, what do you call it? Like the noble savage myth or the idea of what they are. They're getting kind of natives in movies were almost like typecast as a certain idea, And this movie is really bluntly puts it in your face at how rough it is now, like a very modern look at it. But it does have dressings of stereotypicalness, I guess. But I feel like if you're going to be making a movie on a reservation, why not have them like more native, in quotes, like moments and ideas and clothing and speech to kind of round out or fill in your story.
Sure.
So texture, I guess, is a great word for it. But I agree with that. I mean, I can find pictures of the picnic in '92, and everyone looks identical to the like that. They're exactly the same.
Seriously,
like even Grandpa walking away in his jeans and his like flannel tucked in, and I'm like, I've seen that guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's walking like Patterson, like that's like them jeans. I've definitely seen them jeans on a person in that flannel. Like my grandpa still wears that same outfit. Like it's not like no, that's '92 on any reservation. Maybe that could be anyone, but but it definitely had a real native feel to it. Like very much the jokes, the phrases, the language, the way they talked, even had a like just a real really resi feeling, like a resi feel to it.
I thought the one time when he drives by, he gives him the finger, right? Graham Greene gives him the finger, but then he's staking out the grandpa, and then pretty much just out of the blue, and this would happen in the res. Grandpa jumps on the back of the motorcycle and off they go.
Yeah, and off they go.
You wouldn't see that many places on the reservation. I'd be like, yep, of course, that's where they go. Yeah, there he goes. Yeah. There goes Mr. Bissell.
Hey, come on, Grandpa.
He jumped on the back of the four-wheeler, and there he goes.
The conversation with Maggie and Val Kilmer's character when he was talking about his father, he finally kind of tells her, no, I'm aware of him. He drank himself to death. He did this. He would say he could fly. He was an iron worker. Thousands of iron workers, that are natives. It's like he would do it barefoot with no harness. I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's not unlike people I know that would do that. And he would say, oh, he called me this. This is what he called me. And she was like, oh. Said it was meant good boy. He's like, well, it's the lard we put in soup. I'm sure he wasn't calling you a chubby boy. Like even the way she said it, I'm like, like that's
yes,
that's someone's auntie right there. That's absolutely.
Well, even that comedy from the father, using the language.
Yeah, using the language to like give jabs
him give him a little name there. Like you could grow up like, oh yeah, I've had relatives. That,
I was working at a gas station, pumping gas, and there's a guy we work with. I know now his name's Dennis, but at the time we only knew him as Coon.
Yeah, that's right.
As referring to a raccoon.
Yeah, honest to goodness.
And we're at and we're yelling at him because he left a receipt for a credit card, and they're yelling, "Hey, Coon across the islands, the gas station islands," and this black lady gets out. Who the F are you calling? I'm like, no. It's his name.
Honest to goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of trouble to be had.
And they were like, Dennis, is it Dennis? And I'm like, Dennis? Who the heck is Dennis?
It's like Edison Nook. I'm like,
yeah. Oh,
I got yelled at for that by him. I'm like, wait a minute. First 50 years of my life.
Yeah. There's
so many change on a dime like that.
Names that they're like, oh no, that's his real name. I'm like, really? That's his name?
Conceptually, a lot of modern things at the time happening that are portrayed in this movie.
Yeah.
And stereotypical, it's tough for me to say because, nation to nation, I think there are some differences. Like out here, it's not like we had like powwows out here. Our res is so small, but out west they would have powwows and
Well, I think our picnic constitutes a powwow. We just didn't call it that.
I mean, they do Indian dance that lasts for an hour on one of the days.
That's for contests. They do a kids one, they do a women's one, they do a men's, and they call back later for men's one. It's a small one, but yeah.
Well, here's some of the differences too. Is like we don't have like the big long headdresses in our culture. We have gastoas that they're just on the top of the head, and there may be feathers that drape down on the back depending on what nation you're from. within the Haudenosaunee, but we don't have those big long headdresses that go down the back like you'd see
The
in stereotypical
yeah.
portrayal.
What's the football? One football team is it?
And I mean, probably all of
All
them.
of
do.
them.
Yeah.
What was the college one?
Seminoles?
Seminoles have one where the guy has one like way down, almost to the back of his knees and stuff like that.
Right. So we don't have that. So it's, I'm going to bite my tongue on whether or not it's stereotypical because we don't have that flashy garb that they wear, like out west more, for dancing out here in say like the Seneca territories, you'd have like the big shiny loud bells and outfits when they dance, but it's not going to look exactly like you'd see out west or like maybe portrayed in this movie at their powwow that they had.
Right.
So it's tough for me to say whether or not stereotypical because I've actually never been out west to any of those reservations either. So I don't know, and then the ugly side of the stereotype also, like we were saying, you're riding in this car almost like a ride at an amusement park.
Yeah.
Being shown this stuff, like Jurassic Park
You're on
almost.
safari. Yeah.
And you're being shown, oh, this is, over here, we'll see this right here. And if you look to your left, you'll see this. And so that part also is tough for me to say whether or not stereotypical, because when I think back at portrayals, that's what you think of is what you say, reservations mainly out west, where it's just prairies and desert and everything. That's what you would think of. But I've never been out on those reserves. I can't say for sure during those time frames if it looked like that or not.
I see.
So if it did, then I can't call it stereotypical.
Yeah.
But modern, I feel like a lot of the themes and conflicts that take place in the movie are a little bit more universal. So in that sense, I can say those are modern. So that's my thoughts on it.
I think that's interesting. I wrote a scene in a movie about the main character is taking that exact same drive, and I felt shameful watching it, how much I ripped it off, first of all. But I felt shameful watching it because I'm thinking, when I watched it, I felt a little ugly. I'm like, well, don't just show the ugly of the reservation. Show the nice houses. Show the people that are, because there's people that are hardworking folks. You're showing me all the poverty, but most reservations that I've been to have a little bit of mixed bag of all kind of folks. You're forced on these little parcels of land, and you create your life, inside that society. But you're just showing that, and I was feeling pretty judgy. Then I thought of one particular scene that I actually wrote, and it was pretty much stolen right from there, where the lead character is driving through and doing a comical observation of what he sees to his right and to his left and to his right, and a little bit further, and just enough to side half the house, huh? Well, turn that side to the road side, so we think you got some money, There's little things like that, and I was being pretty judgy about the stereotype.
That is the side you side first, though.
Right? Yeah, right. You do side the first side, and I'm like that. I'm like, I can actually relate. I got a shed that it's not stereotypical. It's right. That's a good point, though, Vaz. I think what I gain from that statement is that when someone says, "Is that offensive to you?" or "Is that how it is?" I'm like, you'd have to ask 100 different folks from 100 different communities, and that would just be scratching the surface. Because even here, you could ask 100 different people on our community if that's stereotypical or not. We don't have the native stamp,
Right.
Now, is this movie, the portrayals, are they fair to the indigenous folks? Or do you, like, for example, when they're making that same drive through the community to start, and Ray Lavoie says, if these people want to make a difference, they should start by cleaning up the trash in their yards or something along those lines. Now, I mean, do you guys think that type of portrayal is a little too rough, or do you think it's warranted? Do you think it's fair to indigenous communities? Scenes like that, and I mean, they're sprinkled throughout, just, the conditions that people are living in or keeping their homes in.
Well, first I'd like to say that that drive needed to happen, so you saw how far he is from these people.
That's right.
So you want to see Lavoie distance himself initially. Like he puts up as many walls as he can from this life and these people, and then they slowly break down after like some truth or honesty or what's right. It gets shown, and his own past gets brought to him. But
so
do I think that you could start by cleaning up these front yards first? I'm like, it might be. There might be a little bit to it, but there's also like a lack of value placed on the front yard. You know, the curbside appeal is not a phrase used. You know, like that's not your property value. There's not a property value thing.
So I'll put this context in it, because K-Max just mentioned there's bound to be nicer homes in this community.
Yeah.
We don't see them in this movie.
Right.
We only see the bad. So we don't see where Graham Greene's character lives. We don't see where Milton's boys live. We only see where the lowest people live. You know, in these communities built just for housing.
10 broke down cars.
Yes,
kids' toys.
and trailers and all that. We don't see any of the other characters' houses. We see Maggie's, but, you know, would we even consider that one, you know?
That one's maybe slightly better.
Maybe that one might
be
be the grandmother's, though. I don't know if it's actually hers or not. I don't think it is. But either way, so is it fair then that we only see, because now we're talking about manipulation of how these characters are portrayed to drive home like you said, the distance that needs to be shown to Val Kilmer's character.
Right.
Because now we're being manipulated to prove a point and not actually being shown, well, I'm sure there's hardworking people
right.
that are earning a nice wage doing responsible things living in this community. There has to be.
Yeah.
But we're not shown it at all. We're only shown the other side.
I think there's a huge statement in that, like society and film. There's got to be courses on that. There's majors on that, not just courses. There's entire careers based on that question. Like, you're making films. You have to present, like what James said. You have to present to see his journey, to see his arc fully. You got to see that. But of course, it's not fair. In my opinion, it's not fair because then society sees that, and again with my defensiveness, then I get pitied by someone who I make 10 times more money than.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, say, don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, you're so lucky that these entrepreneurs are doing something good for your people. I'm like, oh, you're so ignorant.
Right.
You know, they're doing fine for themselves. Good for them.
Yeah.
I'm also doing fine for myself. Good for me. You know what I mean? And who are you carrying along with you is a bigger question. I think that this goes back to, in my opinion, like we did with the poverty guys. If you want to check out those episodes, the poverty episodes, there's some things that ring true to this. Sure, it's fair to say start by cleaning up your yard. That's something everybody can do. Starts with that. Starts with your day-to-day, what you can control your controllables. I'm all for that. That's fair to say that. It's maybe not nice, but it's fair. You can clean up your yard. But I think his character on purpose missed the bus on some of the institutional failures that have happened to these people. They've been, involuntary minorities. Indigenous people aren't minorities here. It was forced on us, so we're like not voluntary minorities either. We didn't migrate somewhere and then become minorities there because we went there. Involuntary minorities is Plymouth Rock landed on you. You didn't land on Plymouth Rock, and so a lot of these things, and then also when you get displaced and moved, and then you have the same place that displaced you, try to create programs to help you that end up crippling you. And then they throw money at the problem. And we know that that's not always the answer. But then you get people that are smart, quote unquote, I'm using finger quotes here, smarter than you, deciding whether you're smart enough to have the money or are responsible enough or not. And then all of a sudden we're going to tell you how to spend it. Then it goes back to what you're saying, the theme of corruption and power struggle. And there you have life on the reservation in 2025. That one's almost exclusive. That one's almost all inclusive to all territories because everywhere you go, you see a little struggle, and that people are trying to figure it out, trying to do better, and there's people taking advantage of the loopholes, the little loopholes here and there to gain personal wealth or personal prestige. And it's almost like if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And it's like, meanwhile, the lowest common denominator of our communities, sadly, looks like what we've seen in Thunderheart. You see it from the most affluent reservations to some of the poorest, and some of the poorest have the most resources these days. The folks out there that had the oil, the oil fields. Is it the Flower Moon? That whole story there. And then modern, Daryl's working with some folks now. They're trying to create like a wellness plan to take care of their folks because they don't know how to live with that wealth. I get carried away because we'll be here till 2:00. But like, I think that's super interesting though that a movie like this can bring up those topics though.
Yeah.
And last thing Gandhi said, the biggest thing that they took from us, the colonizers, was our ability to govern ourselves. Not the atrocities of killing, not the atrocity of stealing, not the we just don't know how to rule ourselves anymore. That's the biggest atrocity they did to us. And so you're seeing a look at that. And I think it's an unfair portrayal, but that's Hollywood. They have to create what you said, the texture, to see the growth to see the arc of that character. Yeah. I think. Yeah. If they spent so much time on the exposition showing us everybody.
Yeah, if they wanted to give an honest shake to the layout of the land, it's going to take focus off of your character's journey.
Yeah,
I guess.
I have flashes of both fair and unfair when I look at certain topics within the movie. So, just decency. I mean, I know Tin Man, you said there wasn't that much value placed on like your curb appeal and all that, but in some of those cases, just straight up garbage strewn across the lawn, and I can't recall any cultures where leaving garbage on just strewn about is acceptable. Mm-hmm. So, fair question. They should start by cleaning up their own lawns. Fair. Should I keep my house cleaner? Yep, that's fair. That's fair. Fair critique of myself. But I think it's also fair, like you said, the institutional failures from third parties in the history of Native America that have led to this point. Mm-hmm. So I think it's also fair to ask or fair to critique American government at the same time you bring up these individuals. Mm-hmm. It's another gray area of, who's responsible for what at this point. If it's modern day, you've brought up right now, do we feel oppressed? I mean, I feel very fortunate to be where I am right now. I don't feel oppressed by anybody or any entity. But that's not to say others don't. Right. So it's kind of who knows what's to blame here? Is it because we did certain things that other people's didn't, or was it because other people's were hindered in ways that I wasn't? So who knows?
It's a great question. It's a great question. So,
I think I go back and forth depending on what they show on screen. But overall, I feel like it's fair to bring into question just American history when you see these people in the conditions they are.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Any other thoughts? Looks twice.
Looks twice. I always tell my kids whenever they bring up things like that, I'm like, all right, write them down. Write down all the people oppressing you, and we're going to go pay a visit, and we're going to set this straight. Because you have opportunities here, kids. So write them down, and let's go talk with them. Let's go have some conversations.
And that's a big... people hold on to that. Like, I have a really close friend, and he's got a doctorate. He's a professor, and his whole thesis and idea is based on finding the bars that create the cage of oppression around you. And I'm like, if all you're looking for is to be oppressed, you're going to find something. But right now, who's really? I'm like, I couldn't be more free. I feel like I'm more free where I'm at, where I don't have to worry about the taxes for certain things. If I want to build something without having a township, grant me permission to build a garage on my own property.
Have a bonfire.
Have a bonfire. You know, if I want to drive my four-wheeler around the property, if I want to shoot into a field where there's nobody, no
That's right.
cause for injury, I'm not going to have an issue with it.
Right.
And I feel like looking at it like a blessing, you know, I'm like, I've lived more of an American dream than anyone else in America.
That's here. I say the
and
same about my experience.
And I'm like, to find issues with all of this, I'm like, yeah, you're going to find issues wherever you go. But if all you're looking at is for issues, if you're a hammer, everything you look at is nails, right?
That's right.
And that's how I view that. I'm like, listen, it's really easy to become a victim, to make yourself into a victim, having victim mentality. I'm like, listen, if you want to go into history and you're going to find historical trauma and you want to just live in that world, feel free to live that world all you want. Don't drag me into it, because I'm going to look at the positives. So
Yeah, I think it's fine to examine the trauma and even acknowledge it.
absolutely.
And then what's the goal? What's the plan moving forward?
Right. What do we do now?
This is my favorite episode ever. I want to be quiet. Go ahead, Voss. Awesome. I could not agree with Tin Man more, and I'm terrified.
Looking outside to make sure there's not pigs aren't flying.
Looking for other signs of the apocalypse.
Now, did you guys feel proud to watch this, given the last subject that we just brought up? Do we feel proud watching this movie?
I did.
Because that was me. I had a bunch of junk in my yard without a sided house, and that was the first thing I wanted to do once I started working, making more money. Kids were getting older. I was like, let's see if I can get the whitest mailbox, you know, because I had, honest to God, I had a Moochie painted mailbox with my clan being a Bear clan, my wife being Snipe clan, and that was my mailbox. And that thing, we had it till it rusted, till it fell apart and fell off the thing. And I'm like, all right, what's the next one I'm going to get? Let's get the fanciest, whitest looking one ever.
right.
And color white, not
literal Caucasian white.
Oh, yeah. I knew exactly what you meant. I've seen the evolution of your mailboxes.
I was like, where is let's go to Amber, see what their mailboxes look like.
Build a brick one, right?
Yeah.
The same brick is on the house. I remember when we moved to Alabama, the house we built down there, the brick was the same. One of the big issues with the homeowners association was, your brick on your mailbox housing doesn't match the brick of your housing. You got to change. So my parents had to change their brick mailbox.
Oh my gosh!
To be the same
just
brick.
match the paint. Yeah, they just paint over it.
And I'm thinking, we're not on the reservation anymore.
No.
Something new to strive for, Tin Man.
That's it. Look at it now. It's exactly what I did. Exactly what I wanted.
You have to change it all to brick.
Oh, I got to change the brick. I got to change all the brick now in my mailbox.
I want to say even further. I'm proud. I was proud to watch this movie 1,000 miles away, but I'm also proud to watch it like yesterday, and because I've been on a bit of a journey myself, not very much like Val Kilmer's, but there was always a resistance to a lot of the traditions and a lot of the things that I now hold very dear in my community, and I have a new respect for, and because I have a better understanding for language and culture and tradition and things like that, is the beauty of it, and not just a flat out resistance to it. Like that's not what I do. That's not who I am as a Christian. That's not who I. There's a lot of beautiful things that I celebrate and that I just really look up to. My friends that hold on to a lot of things, because I don't think that they are even a religious thing. They're just like a symbolic thing that is part of your culture, part of your heritage, part of who you are. And I think a lot of times that my faith, which is my main thing, I identify first with my faith. I was taught in a lot of ways that I have to push all these other things away to embrace my faith. And I don't know if that's absolutely accurate, because the older I get and the more I study Scripture and the more I study my community, there's a lot of beautiful commonality. There's a lot of beautiful common denominators that allow me to speak my language more, and allow me to celebrate, and also celebrate with those folks who don't believe like I do, and love them more, and be more authentically me, and be a better neighbor. And I think some of my better relationships are with folks who don't believe like I do as far as faith goes. But we share a lot of cultural things and stories that we can laugh and have fun and have commonality with, and just be a better neighbor that way. So I was proud of this movie for the cultural identity, but I was also proud of the journey, the boldness to show him as such a blatant butthead toward his people, and then kind of be and see how enriched his life became the more he immersed himself in who he was and didn't reject who he was. And I thought, I felt proud in that journey too, because I saw a little bit, again, besides the looks, a little bit of that in my own journey in his, that the more older I get, the more I realize there's certain things about my culture that I never had to push away, that I never had to reject. And I don't think I ever outwardly did. I just don't think there's a lot of evidence of that in me. I don't, like ribbon shirts and things of that nature. I've always liked them. I always thought they're beautiful beadwork and then the songs and dances. I know songs and I know lyrics and used to dance when I was a little kid, but have I done any of those things? Have I sung any of the songs? Have I practiced any of the religions? Even like a name. I've just recently looked into those ideas of naming things like that, because for so long it was you do this, you don't do that. And I'm thinking
And both sides think that too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's the thing with most communities too. And that's the cool thing about this silly little podcast is conversations that are happening that won't happen anywhere else. I haven't heard them anywhere else. Yeah. But not just Native communities, but Latino communities and African American communities. What it is a fear of the unknown very often. I'm not like them. They're not like us, so we need to fear them and we need to distance ourselves from them. Meanwhile, they are us. There is no them. There's only us. Yeah. And it sounds very liberal. It sounds very kumbaya. But the more I live like that, the better neighbor I am, and honestly, the better Christian I am too. So I love my neighbor a little bit more like myself.
I was going to say, I think I even take it a step further, because I do go to ceremony occasionally, and I have gotten a name, and I did struggle with where do I put this act with my understanding of who God is. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, with the last ceremony I went to, it's like, listen, we're giving thanks for this. I go, that's fine. I just know who I'm praying to. I know him personally. So now, to me, Rawat Diatna, and Jesus Christ have something very common. They don't see it some don't see it that way. Sure. But I can still show up and do my thing, and they all know it. I'm still going to church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I just know where I pray to, I know he's listening. Yeah. So I can. It took me a while to try to put this together. Yeah. But that was my journey. Mm-hmm. My understanding of how do I connect this and this world, and I have strong Native traditional friends who are just like, oh, you can't do both. I'm like, sure. You can't stop me. Right. Good luck trying to stop me. That's exactly who I am.
Honestly, goodness. I mean, I think that's a cool, super cool journey. And that's why when Vaz asked the question, were you proud watching it? I was proud of it for a lot of reasons. There's some parts that I was a little shameful of. I'm like, oh, my non-Native friends are going to be like, oh, you guys live like that? Or you do that? And I'm like, yeah.
So I think my take's slightly different, but still proud to watch. Because I know that, yes, it's portraying indigenous cultures, I also know it's not my own specific indigenous culture. It's not Tuscarora, it's not Haudenosaunee, it's South Dakota and the Sioux and Oglala. And so I was able to be proud of the fact that there was a mainstream movie, not just like a local movie or a documentary, but an actual mainstream movie with big time actors like Val Kilmer and Sam Shepard.
Oh yeah,
that are portraying this indigenous story and basing it off of not based on, but inspired by events that are happening across multiple nations. Mm-hmm. So I think I was more proud of that idea that there's this mainstream movie with, made it big time. Yeah. It's part of the, not just our culture, but pop culture at that point. Yeah. Across all of, at least the United States, but whatever other nations are getting access to this movie are going to be able to get glimpses and thoughts and exposure to these things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's where my proudness, I guess, came from.
Nice.
And not so much, that's what we do. It's on screen, because it, I don't do a lot of the things that they do in the movie.
Right, right. That's super cool.
All right, so I think this next part is pretty related to what we just talked about, but character and community conflicts that are shown in the movie that maybe they hit a little close to home, and in what ways, I guess. So we talked a good amount, K-Max, from your point of view with the character conflicts about Ray Lavoie and his, well, both of you actually, about the struggle or the journey to incorporate traditional values and actions and practices with a modern upbringing, whether it be Christianity or educational or line of work, or even just where you live. Like myself, I live off the reservation, but I still consider myself very much a member of the Tuscarora community. Mm-hmm. So I know we kind of already talked a good amount about character there in relation to our lives. But community, I think, is, we touched a little bit on it, but, the goons and the arm and, history on our own territory where there's people burning down other people's houses and violence towards other people based on what you stood for. So you guys have any thoughts on that at all? Like the community aspect of the conflicts that were in this movie.
I have way too many. I'll sum it up quickly though, saying you put any demographic of people on a 2x5 and say go, and you force them onto there, and you say the rich, the poor, the good, the bad, the thin, the fat, the happy, the sad. Put them all together. Say this is your parcel of land that you'll live on. This is the land that's allotted to you. Go. You're gonna get a microcosm. You're gonna be able to study. It's like a petri dish of what can go good and what can go horrible, all on that tiny little. Mm-hmm. And so you have like you get to study people and dynamic at a level that the outside scholarly world has never seen. So when you look at charts on alcoholism, drug use, suicide, addictions, sexual abuse, you need buildings so that you can put charts on top of charts on top of charts to look at the numbers comparatively for all these things in our communities. And I don't know that the outside folks understand that. The professionals, the service providers, the teachers, the counselors, if they get an idea of how acute some of these issues are. And it goes back to the question that you're asking, the dynamic of the different groups in the community. Because you can't have all these kinds of people live in such close proximity, so passionate about the things that drive them, and not have, think about like the Goon Squad and the armed people, and and then what about all the people that we don't see, right? And I won't get too far into that, but I always consider myself, when I'm looking at all these movies and things, I think about, I'm one of the people you don't see in this movie because I'm not over here and I'm not over here. I like all these people. I'm friends with all these people. Mm-hmm. Even the guys on the back of the pickup, that's probably my brothers. With the rifles. That's probably one of them, or two of my brothers. And then the other one's over here, the businessman guy, And then I'm in the middle probably saying, everybody just chill out. Let's watch the game. Let's go play basketball. Let's all of us get together. I'll see you at the feast. Let's all hang out there. And the thing about our communities, even though there's all these different people, like in Thunderheart, all these different groups, I'd venture to guess you roll a ball out, they'll all put their guns down and play a good game of ball and hit hands after, drink a gallon of water, and go back to being jerks after. Yeah. And that's one of the things that are unique to our little neighborhoods, or Tuscarora at least, is you can have all these divisions, and at the end of it, if everybody takes a deep breath, you can look at your neighbor and say, yeah, that's those are Wendy's kids, and those are Care's kids. And if you see people that way, man, you just breathe and see them. We're just neighbors. We're all just neighbors trying to figure it out together. But like in the 90s, in the 80s, when all this stuff was going on, there were death threats. There were guns being pointed in people's faces. There was hot tar being put on people. You'd watch your mother get humiliated and called a whore or different things. You'd see your sister get pushed in a ditch. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 30 years later, you're supposed to forget all of that. And you're supposed to just move forward and move on. And now these people are your leaders now, some of them. And now these people are business leaders who were threatening your family. And all of a sudden I have to be okay with that. And we live on this, again, I go back to my point, we live on this 2x5.
Yeah.
And that might be being generous with the land. We live on this tiny strip of land, but all of us are still there. Those families are still there, the hurts. And you have these shifts with society. We have the times that change and things, and time heals all wounds. Well, you still have to remember, I was that kid that walked on this line as I seen, my brother-in-law get punched in the face and jumped by 6 of these guys. Oh, 3 of those guys were your coaches. 2 of those guys are your teammates now. This guy now coaches your son.
Yeah.
And you know what? These are all faces and families that you remember. And, talk about, you could have like a weekly trauma counselor that just has a whole gymnasium full of members and dealing with these dynamics of these different groups. I think of the Thunderheart movie. They could use a counseling session for all these groups. I think that how that reservation out there looks moving forward with all that generational infighting. You can't just swallow it, and
right.
That's got to go somewhere.
Exactly. So if one side, quote, wins, whatever that means in this instance, you're going to have to live with it. You're going to have to live with, oh yeah, that guy right there drove by my house and shot up my kids.
Yeah.
These people right here did this to me, did this to my family. So whoever's trying to gain power or shape the way that the nation is operating going forward, they're going to have people live with the fact that they've done these things to each other.
Mm-hmm. And it's not easy to understand if you're not from the area, because I tried to tell people, when I'm one of the instructors for the police academy. So I do teach some of the classes with new recruits going through, and one of the classes that they suggested teaching was Native American reses, because some of the sheriff's department, Lewiston, a couple other New York State troopers, they will patrol and then handle calls on the reservation. I'm like, listen, you got to handle it like it's one family in a really, really big house. Mm-hmm. How often do people who don't live on reservations have a problem with their own family, and now Thanksgiving is a nightmare? Mm-hmm. Christmas gatherings is awful because of that one thing that happened 10 years ago, and you guys are still going at it because of it. Imagine that on an area that I know every one of that person who did that offense, their kids, their aunts, their cousins who were okay with it, and now they're mad at us, or they're mad at so-and-so, and it's like a big pissed off family at times at Thanksgiving dinner now trying to be civil. So there's a hard way to handle all of this. Remember, everyone views themselves as internal. If you're from here, if you're external trying to come into control anything, who are you to tell us? Who are you from outside the family coming into the family to tell us how we're supposed to live?
Yeah.
So there's already a you versus them mentality coming in. So it is if it's viewed like one large family house, and then you're coming from the outside to control us, to tell us how to do things. Like, listen, there's a way to do it, and you guys have not been doing it that way for years.
That's tricky.
So that's how I try to teach them on the outside. Like, listen, you're coming into a big family feud is happening. If you're coming in, you got to come in to help. Your job is to be a peacekeeper. You're trying to make this as peaceful as possible. You're here to help, and you have to come in with that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. That's tough.
with the movie, I think a pretty cool example of you're relating the community as a family. Lavoie, towards the end, when he's starting to accept his roots and his perspective, stepping back from being inside of the FBI and that way of life, he's on the run with Graham Greene, and where do we go? The Stronghold. Doesn't even know what it looks like. He's like, is that it right there?
Yeah.
Like, we're going there. But to me, what that represented was family, right? Because they get there. okay, this is your big plan. We're stuck against a big cliff.
Yeah.
And that's when all the members of the community they were there to meet him there.
Yeah.
Or they met him there, and they're kind of hidden with their rifles and ready to support Ray in accepting this part of his history. So I kind of view that as like a bigger, you lean into your community, you lean into your family when you need that support, when you need, when you're trying to figure out who you are, your identity, you lean into the people around you.
That's really good.
And so that's what I saw here. And that's what when we talk about our own community, that's what I see also is you got to be able to lean into your family and your loved ones and your community members for that same support. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe off the reserve, it's not quite so much. You talk with people and it's like, well, how many cousins do you have? Oh, I don't know, 1 or 2. Like,
yeah, I
that's
haven't
all you
seen
have?
them since 2 Christmases ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And in this movie, you kind of see a glimpse of it to start. He's on his own. He's driving. He's this independent guy driving his convertible through the city to the Capitol and whatnot, and no one with him. Is forced to pair up with a guy he knows of, Cooch, his by reputation only, but he doesn't seem to have any other connections with family, friends, etc. But during this movie, he's making these lifelong connections with these people. And then by the end of it, he's having this conversation with Graham Greene like he's like their brothers, Oh, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty cool connection. You see it happening to this Lavoie character during the movie. But I think that's one of those things you can't really put your finger on it, but you recognize it from our own community where you lean into your family knows what's good for you as well, and they're just doing what they can to help. They're not there to control you. They're there to kind of lead you on the right path, much in the same way Maggie and Grandpa Reaches and everyone in all the native characters in the movie were guiding Lavoie rather than instructing him and all that. Unfortunately, one of the other things I saw was that mentality of us versus them, though. And I think that created a lot of, you talked about it quite a bit earlier, where it's, well, this is what I believe, and so I'm going to attack you because you don't believe what I believe. And to me, it's such a, you see it in Native communities today. Maybe not as violent, but I think it still exists in our own.
It's gotten a little bit since the dispensaries came up. They did have a few outright fist fights and threats, and
that's I feel like that one's another story altogether.
Okay, we'll leave that.
That one's a huge gray area that we could spend another few hours discussing.
I'm really glad I'm not working in the department where that's where I'd have to respond to. So I'm friends with both sides, and I do not want to get mixed up in this. I'm not picking a side.
It's one of the hardest things now.
I'm like,
we're not even going to dive into it. But in general, the us versus them mentality. It's this is what I think, and if you think different, it's me versus you. And so you have Arm versus the goons, and you see it throughout the movie. If you don't believe this, then how does Cooch say it? Looks twice as an enemy of the United States. There's no in between. There's no he's a citizen, he's a member. No, he's an enemy of the United States.
Yep.
And the lengths that each side will go to defend their own ideals, I guess. So, like
yeah,
said,
as far as lengths they'll go, they have to kill us. Like he's
right.
prepared to die. Like he's like, no, I might have to die. They have to kill us.
And then throughout the movie too, if you break down, like, okay, what does Arm? Can I point out all the members of Arm? Can I point out what they're doing? And what you start to see is, well, it's a lot of just manipulation by the goons.
Yeah,
goons making this guy kill him, making this look like that.
Yep.
They went and shot up Eagle Bear residence and hit
With
the kid.
full of kids.
And then they're like, oh, yeah, the ARM did that one too.
Yeah.
So what does ARM actually do? It seems like they're either non-existent or they're being so controlled that you don't get to see, what their actual goal is in the movie. And even from the start, you're told what they do by that Mr. Exposition in the beginning. Whoever, the FBI dude that was telling Val Kilmer what his job was. He's telling Val Kilmer, oh, no, this is what ARM does.
William Dawes. Yep, Fred Thompson. Actual senator, too. Fred Thompson.
Really?
Yep. Not at the time, but he was.
Man. Did you know David Crosby was a bartender in this
Yep.
movie? I did not know that.
But that one's something that you're not as proud to watch when you see that mentality. Mm-hmm. But that one just isn't in that movie for that reservation. It's not just in our community. That is everywhere.
Yeah.
Which leads me into our last talking point here. Are these conflicts accessible to a non-native audience? Like, can a non-native person watch this movie and be able to tap into these conflicts that are shown on screen?
In a way. Typical Braley cop-out, in a way.
Little A, column B,
right.
column A,
because you
column
can
B.
Yeah, that's right. Fugazi. It's pixie dust. It's not real. Anyway. McConaughey's awesome. I think yes, there's some very, very, very basic tenets of conflict that exist that they can tie into, but specifically, I've actually had a little discussion with some of our listeners previewing this.
A surprise of your own.
Right. And really, really, really trying to explain the conflict to them, and them saying, like looking at me like, I don't quite get it. How this group can exist and this group can exist. Because I was trying to explain what the movie was kind of about. And there was a lack of understanding of how the same tribe can have such dynamic within the same tribe. Aren't you guys all family?
This is, oh my goodness. This is going to be so good then when I go through what I go through.
So I think in some ways, it can be understood. I think that it's obviously, I'm knee deep in the hoopla, I'm just a chicken in a bread pan. I'm in there kicking up dough. So I can't see outside of the frying pan because I'm right there in it, But I think that they can access it. I don't know if they can fully access it. But from the success of the movie, it looks like they found a decent way of doing it.
I would say that they can understand enough of the context to get the story, but they might not have a personal attachment to it. Mm-hmm. But they can understand, I think they built the world well enough that you can follow it and it makes sense, right?
And like James said, some of the journey to take you on purpose to create that texture, they do it on purpose. They do it in such a way, the filmmakers, that you can kind of grasp the conflict, even if you didn't know the bare bones of it, the roots of it.
So, K-Max, I'm going to have you. So you said how did you phrase it? You're one family. How can you have so much conflict? Is that,
aren't you guys all the same tribe? How can you have so much? How can you have so much disagreement outside of the same? Outside of the same tribe, and oh my.
So I'm going to ask the same question, but just switch out a couple words. Aren't you all American citizens? How can you have such conflict?
Oh my.
Democrats and Republicans.
Oh my.
Aren't you all American citizens? Are you from the same country? How come you fight so much?
What'd be interesting?
Yeah, right?
My thing is, I wish I had the experience of Tin Man and Family. I don't wish. I'm happy. I'm happy for my friends when they do.
But I'm happy to not be Tin Man.
But I'm honestly not a world traveler though. But a lot of my colleagues travel a lot, and they get a perspective of the world, how they see us, how they look at it. Like, what the heck is wrong with you guys? And then they make us wear a lot of the identity of our leaders sometimes. And depending which 4-year reign you're under, which king you're under, you're like, that does not represent me, or yes, that does represent me. Let me tell you why. That's a good question. I like the way it's posed that way.
So you also brought up something too, where it was like, well, imagine you forced all these people to live on this 5x2. Now take America as it is and try to condense it down, and now you get the same issues. You get people. If you don't believe what I believe, I'm going to either eliminate you, or I'm going to make you believe what I believe, and I'm never going to look at things from another point of view.
Oh, look at these areas of the world, man. That were the Balkans, the Holy Land, like these small little concentration areas, Bosnia, Serbia, where this conflict exists. You have all these groups of people forced, sometimes involuntarily, forced to live and occupy the same land. It's like, why is there so much conflict there? Really? You're curious?
Mm-hmm. I mean, could you imagine if we condensed this country to live on even half the amount of land, how much conflict there would be within people and communities and cultures, and you
made me do the Tin Man noise.
So in this sense, I think it's very accessible, but I think there's not stigma, but I think it's too disguised for people to realize how accessible this type of story is. You have these people that can't agree on how to run things. Now, what am I talking about? Am I talking about the movie, or am I talking about our American government?
Wow.
And I remember in the past you've talked about your time in Alabama, and you go through certain trailer courts and whatnot. And I feel more at home here, mm-hmm. And that's a demographic that we may be not familiar with, but exists. Those folks that aren't on reservations, but still have to live in trailer courts. We see them even in Western New York, mm-hmm. sprinkled all throughout. We have people in trailer courts are just living how they live, and for us to be able to relate to those people because we have them in our own community, and then Tin Man having the perspective of the law enforcement. That's one thing also that I think shares boundaries. There's people that will see this movie and see that side of it. This is a murder investigation. This is, now it's a land dispute. Now there's corruption here where they're trying to swindle these people out of their land because there's something valuable on it.
That's probably why I picked that in the beginning. It's like, I know, corruption. Police involvement. That's where I was wrapped into that.
In that sense, I think that part is also accessible by a wider audience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think because it's called Thunderheart and everything is in your face about the aesthetics of it, the colors, the outfits, the 90s look, it may be disguised too well for your audience to see. Now, K-Max, did your colleagues watch the movie yet then, or no?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, two have, and I can't wait. I haven't heard since.
Okay.
But I can't wait to hear, because they wanted to watch it and then listen to the pod. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for the discussions after.
Now, one of the other things is the idea of the poverty and taking advantage of your opportunities. That's something that we discussed in our poverty chapter and featured nothing about Native Americans. We had an Italian movie. We had a South Korean movie.
German?
We had a German movie recently. But we've
went around the world.
We've had all these movies that depict
look at
their
us.
ideas of poverty. But then you look at this movie, and it's not such a different thing. You have the same questions. Well, why didn't the characters do this?
Yeah.
Why, if you're, and then you really relate it to our own lives. Well, we took advantage of this to get to the point where we're at now. There are people that don't have the same opportunities, or they're hindered in ways that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that isn't just a reservation thing. That's a global thing.
I hate when he does this. He ties it all together so nicely, and I feel sheepish.
But you see characters in Thunderheart like Maggie Eagle Bear, who is able to go off the reserve to the big city and get her
Dartmouth education.
Dartmouth, and get her her education and come back and try to use it for the community, and basically choose the life that she's living. You know, with that education, she could have gone wherever she would have wanted to, but chose to come back. And even that is relatable to a wider audience. You know, going somewhere to better yourself, to bring back to your own community and try to better your community. I feel like that's something we can all relate to. But yeah, when it comes to the poverty thing, this is just another glimpse at it from a different angle. But it's a problem that we see in every single culture that we'll look at, and every country. You know, there's going to be people at the bottom that are put there either by their own doing or because of how society works, because there's always some sort of entity taking advantage of another entity. So I think it's very much accessible by a wider audience, and maybe not even just in America, but globally.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on it.
That's good. I like that. This is fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would hear it and listen to it and say, oh, either yum or yuck, as far as knowing us and saying, how do you feel about that? And now a lot of non-native friends and folks saying, what do you think about this or that? I think they can garner a lot of information from this about what I think about this and that. And again, folks, this is just one person's perspective, my perception of things. I don't claim to be the native authority on any of this. In fact, I'm usually the counter argument in most things. It's almost my nature to be that.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be disagreeable, especially honestly, being a public servant as a teacher, and then also in the service industry as a barber. Man, if you can't bridge gaps and you can't find common ground, get out of both of those trades. And you as probably a police officer and a nurse, you got to find common ground with everybody, man, if you want to serve them right. Mm-hmm. And I'm learning as I get a little older, at 53. As someone who watched Thunderheart as an adult, if we can loosely use the word adult, I know more now that, to have my own peace and to be a part of peace in my community moving forward, I have to find that commonality. And there's less things that I want to battle about, man. It's let's help each other out. Let's help each other out as we move forward here. How can I be a better neighbor? Someone sits in my chair. How can I be a better neighbor to this person? That fits being a decent person. That also fits Scripture. So yeah, I win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
How can I do justly and love mercy and walk humbly? Well, how can I be a better neighbor? That helps me.
Oh yeah.
You speak about like common ground, and I'd venture to say that anyone that dwells on the question I asked, when I switched the words out, I would say most of us aren't hard one way or the other, but somewhere kind of in the middle. And that middle, is being able to incorporate a little bit of everything and see different sides of things and be able to admit, okay, I could see your point of view there, But just to wrap up here, I had a couple other observations I wanted to bring up that kind of enhance, I think, the storytelling through the movie. In the beginning, it opens with the dancing, right, of the ancestors, right, and it kind of fades away as the dawn comes up. And to me, that was, a new dawn, like the old ways are disappearing. And the idea that it's juxtaposed with the murder right in the beginning, right? Like, the everyone's together, right, dancing. They're one community here dancing the same dance. That disappears as we come into the new dawn, the new today. And the first thing that we see is a murder happen. So this conflict that is now. And then when you know what happens during that point, now it's this idea of internal conflict within communities, right? So I thought that was a pretty cool way that it set up. And that's why you could say that, the idea of cultural identity, because there's these people that they're still fighting within themselves. How are you going to have an identity if you're still fighting within yourself? Just the way that those two things were shown right after another. It was kind of like the tribe or nation was united, and in the past, and now it's torn up and it's in conflict. So I wanted to bring up also the idea of this resistance to, quote, updating the nation. So when we talk about maybe our own nation, there's some things that would happen that, and I think I kind of mentioned this in the previous episode, but just quality of life changes. Can we get internet so that our kids can actually improve with school? Because nowadays it's a requirement, right? For some schools, I know for like Newport, they come home with their tablets and they're supposed to be able to do homework if school's called off. But if these people happen to live on the reservation, there is no internet. That's widely accessible. Like you can't just plug your cord into the wall and you have internet. Like you have to go out and get other means of getting it. Whether, was it Starlink or using Wi-Fi off your phone or,
super expensive in some ways. Yeah.
Right. So huge expenses that aren't factored in, or phone lines, of course, everyone now uses their cell phone, but just phone lines in general, we haven't had out since what? Early
90s?
2000s?
Yeah, late
90s?
Yeah.
Or even the idea of water. If it, I don't know if it's ever come up that if there's other means of bringing water to the reservation, but, we mentioned that earlier too, is drinking water. Yeah, we can't drink our own water.
I told you Annalise got lectured at Lewiston.
Yeah.
They had the water raised and the guy stopped and he goes, "You have water out there." And she explained to him and he gave her a blank check, said, "How much is for a year of drinking water for school-age kids?" You know what I mean? Like, that's that level of ignorance, and it's not even anybody's fault. It just, you would think, third world country in the middle of America, Anyway.
And so in the movie, you see this resistance to updating, but I think obviously it's portrayed differently in the movie because the idea of updating the nation is incorporating this militant police and overbearing government on these people. But just the idea of change seems to be resistant. It's kind of to me, it's a tough topic to tackle for our community. But where's the line of updating versus keeping your old ways? They might argue about one thing, but then, maybe you're using that thing to create your own wealth by a non-native measure. Well, I make this much money. This what do you call it? This social construct of wealth that doesn't belong to our people in the nation, but that's exactly what maybe they're using. Dispensaries, artifacts, arts, crafts, etc., to gain wealth that measures on a non-native scale. So it's where do you draw the line of updating? So, like I said, we're three Christian men. We're also Native American. We may get comments or views that we're not as native, as the next person that may be traditional in their religious views. So it's pretty tough, I think, to where do you draw that line? How much resistance is there to updating? But I think you kind of hinted at it. I think is just the idea of change can be scary, and people are afraid of the unknown. And I think that's part of it. And I think the fear of losing your identity, like we see here, because I think part of Lavoie's character is if I take on this new identity of being a quarter Sioux, what part of my identity does that take out of? Or does it push everything smaller in my identity? How big is this part of my identity going forward? So I think that's part of it too, is just the I don't know what's going to happen, so I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to real life stuff on our own community, I think we see some similarities there of not fully embracing doing what may be needed for the community as a whole in the year 2025, and maybe gray on some other areas.
Sure, I'd love to. And the beauty of this podcast is I'd love to listen to 3 non-Christian Native guys talk about these same things. And I think I would gain a lot of perspective myself from listening to that. Mm-hmm. All we have is what we have. And so regardless of the comments that we get, it's an authentic reaction to how we see the world. And that's a podcast for you. I hope that there's one out there that have different views, because I would listen to it, and I might agree with all of it, might not agree, and I might learn something. So for good and bad, I'm glad we had this conversation. I feel like it always goes farther. It always, I feel very strongly about a lot of the things that we talk about, and I just feel like I don't want to let this time capsule go by without making a comment on each little thing, because when is this conversation going to happen again? This movie's how old?
Yeah.
And when do you have a chance to put something out there to say, this is how I feel about this? And that's why, if you're wondering when will he shut up, that's why, because their conversations worth having. And the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse, guys. So contribute a verse. Give us some feedback.
All right. So wrapping up, that was Thunderheart from 1992. And if you're also wondering, I think that was probably some of our favorite movies that we had to stay mum about in the previous episode so that we could talk about it for this episode. Because I think Thunderheart is my favorite movie with or about Native Americans.
Mm-hmm. I do love the detective murder mystery. Everything's wrapped up, a cover up. You don't know who's who, and the more you find out, the less you agree with the side you're on. I like that part of the movie. It was such a fun.
I loved how whenever he'd see the dog or anything, he'd say Jimmy. He'd call him Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because he's a shapeshifter.
Yep. He's like, Jimmy, you're under arrest.
Yeah, I liked it. It was like a blend of his sarcasm and the traditional beliefs.
Yeah, because Cooch is like, oh, you have a dog in your car. He's like, yeah, it's Jimmy. Don't worry about it, or whatever he says. Yeah, it's
Fedit can't get rid of it.
Yeah, Fedit can't get rid of it.
Much like myself. Do not feed me, people. Just follow you home.
Especially after midnight.
I'm just throwing this out there. Last thing out there is I really like, because it's funny. I never seen this part of the movie. I just never noticed it until just this last time I watched it. Was Grandpa Reaches talking about his Mr. Magoo.
Oh,
his understanding of Mr. Magoo in the most native way possible.
Isn't that the best? That's
He's
my favorite.
not to be trusted. He needs to go to the mountain to get his vision, to get his vision cleared up. Like it's like his him watching Mr. Magoo and his silly understanding of it, and he even kind of laughs at it. But like,
that was one of my favorite parts. I love that. He's not to be trusted.
Not to be trusted. He needs to go to the mountain to get his vision back.
Oh, Magoo, you've done it again.